Morning, everyone. Today is January 15th, 2021, and welcome to East Hampton Village Board meeting. So if we could just stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, and then we'll get the meeting going. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America.
Oops. Uh-oh, what happened?
Thank you.
Ooh.
All right, just wanted to give a couple of updates before we get going. The other night, Tom Bach, who's a longtime fireman for our village, has been doing a lot of work, volunteering, helping out, driving the ambulance. And the other night, he was assaulted by a patient at Southampton Hospital and wound up in the hospital. So I spoke to him, Marco spoke to him, I think Chris spoke to him, and he seems to be doing okay. I think he was released later that night. And we thank him for all his work. It shouldn't be a dangerous job, but apparently it's turning into something that was unexpected. So thanks, Tom, for everything you do, and I hope you're feeling better.
No, I'd just like to add one thing, Jerry. Well, I was actually in an accident 2 months ago in Southampton, and Tommy Bach was the first one on the scene and really helped me a lot too. And that was in Southampton. So Tom does a lot of good work for the fire department and the ambulance. And I'm really glad at least to recognize him a little bit. So
I'd like to mention that he went back to work that night.
I know. He said as soon as he gets out, he was going to start answering calls again. So
It's incredible.
and it's a big help because, you know, the ambulance is just a little short-handed. So having that extra help to drive is really huge. So thanks again, Tommy. And I'm glad you're doing okay. I just want to remind everybody that the beach permits will go on sale starting February 1st. And we usually run out pretty quickly. So that's important. Reminder of our scavenger hunt will be on January 23rd. You can sign up by going to historicehv@gmail.com. I also wanted to let everybody know our building department will be moving from Village Hall to 88 Newtown Lane. And that's going to be towards the end of next week. That'll be in effect. And the last little update I have is a judge released the findings of a lawsuit that we were, well, let me start over. 2018, the village board passed a law that kind of shut the ability of the 6 inns down to have outdoor events. And as of January 6th of this year, the judge found that the law was invalid and unenforceable. So the next step is that on February 16th, the judge is meeting again to come up with any possible monetary damage that we'll be liable for. So again, just a reminder for everybody, this was the horrible situation back in 2018 when 6 weddings were shut down by the village board. And I think it's appropriate at this time to apologize from the village board to those families to put them through, for having put them through that. And now it's been confirmed by a judge that it should have never been done to begin with. So I just wanted to update everybody on that. And when we talk about monetary, these inns have lost 3 years worth of revenue. So let's see what that's going to turn out to be. So all decisions have consequences. All right, that's my update. So let's move to presentations. We're going to go to Hugh.
Good morning, everyone. I have a couple of corrections. I was called by Harriet Edwards and James Brooks with this correction. When the Momador burned down as part of the Edwards Theater fire, it moved down to Newtown Lane, but it didn't move to where the Golden Pear is. It moved further down to where the galley was. The Galley was a restaurant that was near the old post office, which became the Post Office Cinema and Barefoot Contessa. That's where the Galley was, down in that area, and that's where the Mamador moved. Where the Golden Pear is where Eddie's Luncheonette became Eddie's Luncheonette. Now, Eddie did work at the Mamador, okay? So there's that correction. And we'll be careful about our questions today because Harry and Jim Brooks are still listening, okay? The other thing is, I was talking to, Trustee Melendez asked me about the first Christmas parade. And I found out that it was in 1951, the Chamber of Commerce decided to have a Santa parade, and they had Santa Claus come in an airplane, and he landed on Village Green and apparently got back on the road and rode down to the Edwards Theater where he gave out presents. So those are my two comments. Now, supposedly some people may have had questions for me today. If not, then I'll be out of here. Trustee Brown?
Sure, I have a question for you, Hugh.
Okay.
Mine is regarding the ambulance. We all know the ambulance barn is at Cedar Street, along with the fire department and the police department. But where was the first ambulance barn in the village?
Well, the only place I could think it would be up on the Gingerbread Lane as you turn the corner there.
Mm-hmm, the
That's what
southeast
the
corner.
highway department building from the town or the village had it too.
On Church, yeah,
On Church.
that's correct.
Yeah.
In the
Wow.
50s, it was there. The first ambulance barn was on the southeast corner of Gingerbread and Church Street. And then it moved to Cedar Street, and it's been there ever since, along with the other fire department and police.
Yeah. Do you know that they used to charge people to take the ambulance years ago? $5.
Is that right?
Yeah, Bertha Hobson showed me a bill that she got from taking the ambulance. And when Judd Bannister was the mayor, I think they ended it. They ended that idea.
Well,
Okay.
while we're talking about the ambulance, I too want to thank Tom for his service. And later on in this meeting, we're also accepting another person into the ambulance corps. And I think she's the 6th new member to the ambulance this year. And we certainly appreciate all of their efforts, especially during this time of COVID. So thank you to all of our first responders and especially the ambulance.
Okay, Mayor Larson, do you have a question?
No, I'm going to let you off the hook today.
Okay, thank you. Trustee Minardi.
Hi, Hugh. Good morning. The question that I have, and I don't know the answer to it, is I'd like to know the origin of the name Georgia Beach. Where did that come from? And I mean, I don't know, was there any particular person with that last name, or is it some type of Native American name, or who knows? So I'd like to know the history behind that name.
Yeah, that's a good question, and it's never really been defined. There's Georgica Pond. The area called Georgica was supposed to have a Native American derivation, but we're not really sure. I don't think we can definitely say one way or the other where the name came from. So that's not at this time. And that's okay. It's okay if we don't know everything right away.
Mm-hmm.
There is a Georgica mentioned in the town records. And there was supposed to be a Native American who had that name, but none of that's been verified, Chris, so I don't think so. Thanks for the question, though. Okay.
What about Wyborg? Do you know that one?
Oh, yeah, that's an easy one. Frank Wyborg built a huge estate up near the beach. If you go down highway behind the pond, and then before you get to Wyborg's Beach, you can make a left, right? There's a little road there. It's a private road that goes over near the Maidstone Club. Well,
Right.
in that area, Frank Wyborg built a huge estate. And then he got mad at the Maidstone Club because they built the club up there. Remember, the Maidstone Club was on Maidstone Lane. It burned down twice. Then they moved it up next to his estate, and he got mad at them. The estate cost too much money for his daughter to maintain, so they tore it down.
Wow.
But it's Wyborg's Beach because Frank Wyborg lived up there.
Oh, that's great.
Okay. Trustee Graham.
Sure.
The question that I have is one that I do not know the answer to, and I'm looking to you for elucidation. The area where I live on Cooper Lane, when was that originally developed, and what was there beforehand? Somebody told me that it was a nursery for plants.
Yeah, I'm going to have to look into that. Wait a minute, on Cooper Lane. Wait a minute. Okay, Cooper Lane is right across from the nursery. No, it isn't. It's further down. All right, there was a dairy up in that area, I think, at one time by the Gould brothers. That's why you have Gould Street. They had a dairy, one of the 4 or 5 dairies that were in town. But how did Cooper Lane get developed and what was there before? I'd have to do some research. So, answer pending.
Yeah, I think that my house was built in 1937, or at least I found when we were doing some construction, I found a writing on the wall saying 1937. So yeah, I don't know if that was the original date or what.
And do we know why half of Cooper Lane is in the village and the other half is in the town, right?
Right.
I wonder how that happened. That's another good question. All right, I'm on it.
Thank you.
Trustee Melendez.
Yes, good morning. I have a question. We've been working with the Sea Spray cottages, and I wanted to know about their history and the history of the hotel. I know the hotel was burnt and that no one ever built it again, so I wanted to know more about that.
Well, there's a great picture. I think it's in Mrs. Rattray's book, Up and Down Main Street. The Sea Spray was originally on Main Street. It was the Thomas T. Parsons Hotel. It was probably in the middle of where on the left, on the same side as, oh God, I don't know any of the stores that anybody knows anymore. It's on the same side as the old Village Hall, Starbucks, excuse me, it's on that side. It was probably about where the famous historic landmark Bon Nuit is, and there's a little walkway there. I think it was right about there. And in 1849, when they celebrated East Hampton's history, they thought it was the 200th anniversary. They had the dinner at the end of the celebration at the Thomas T. Parsons Hotel. There's a whole series of toasts that they gave. They read poems of Cornelia Huntington. And in 1901, it was moved down to the beach. And it eventually became the Sea Spray Hotel. That's what I know.
Thank you so much. It's great to know that.
Okay, Mayor, I'm out of here.
Hey, Hugh, thank you very much.
Okay,
Thanks,
thank you.
All right, next up is, I'm going to introduce Brad Billett. He's a very longtime friend of mine, one of my closest and longest friend. He was very instrumental in my campaign. And during that campaign, we had talked about creating a village community fund. And I've asked him to head that up, and he's going to give us a presentation today about it. Hi, Brad.
Hi, how are you?
Good.
Mr. Mayor, Board of Trustees, thank you very much. And Jerry, I appreciate you giving me this assignment. It's an absolute honor. What we're going to create, if the board passes the resolution, is the East Hampton Village Foundation. It would be a 501c3, specifically to assist the village in some of their projects, both in maintenance, beautification, in support of public safety or public works. And essentially, it's a foundation. Giving some background to it, I was a commissioner in New York City for over 20 years. In the mayor's office, we had a 501c3, or we had several 501c3s. One of them that I oversaw was Global Partners in the Sister City program. There is something called the New York City Mayor's Fund, which is also a 501c3, and there's also the Police Foundation. And so there are various 501c3s that are created for the benefits of either the residents or the government, the local government. And so in that, we are looking to create this and to support the great work of East Hampton Village and to assist in any way we can as a 501c3 and as a foundation. I'm happy to entertain any questions. If the board resolves, we will then create this 501c3 with the Secretary of State, and we will go and try to raise funds for the betterment of East Hampton.
Brad, I think it's a wonderful idea. I'm fully in support of it. I know that there are a lot of people in the village that would like to contribute to such a fund, and I'm fully in support. Great idea with the mayor and you, all good.
The mayor has to take all the credit here. I'm just a vessel in which he, in looking at some of what he came up with and making it into a reality.
We actually tried to set this up when I was police chief. We tried to set up a police foundation that mimicked Palm Beach, and the board at the time did not want to do it. So this is just another step, and it's going to serve the whole village, not just the police community. So I picture money going in to help us restore Herrick Park and other projects as we move forward that we don't even know about yet. But I think this is going to be a great way to have a public and private partnership with the residents of our village. So I look forward to it. Thank you, Brad.
Surely. And we've made this broad enough and where it's really covering all of the facets of government and for the betterment of the community. And so I'm happy to assist in the formation and the running of this organization.
Yeah. Another question, Brad, would it be is it restricted only to the village, or does it have the discretion to go outside the village if it wants to?
We haven't finalized the bylaws, but this was envisioned for just the village. We could at any time modify that, and it would just be modifying with the Secretary of State once we do the filings.
Okay.
I think this is great, Brad. Thank you so much. You put a lot of hard work into this, and I think it's wonderful that if there are people out there that want to donate, there's an avenue for them to do that and contribute to this fund. So thank you for all your help. I'm in complete support of this.
Thank you.
I'm also in full support. I think it would be a great way for people to donate into very worthwhile causes, such as you mentioned, Herrick Park. And as we know, the board cannot actively fundraise for some of these important projects. And so this foundation will be able to take that on. And I think it'll be a great public-private partnership.
I look forward to working with all of you.
Thanks, Brad.
Thank you.
All right, so next up is Chris Stoker. Now, before he comes on, I just have to say, Chris, what are you doing these days? Are you, or weren't you with the Yankees shortstop or something?
I'm a current student at Dalhousie University in Halifax, Nova Scotia, but I've been home in East Hampton this year since we've been forced online due to the pandemic.
No, I could have sworn I heard, I was his Little League coach, so I could have sworn he went to the Yankees, but
Knicks.
Hey, it's great to see you.
Good to see you too. Thank you for the opportunity.
And thanks for putting this together. I can't wait to hear what you have to say.
Sure, I'll share the presentation right now. Can you all see my screen?
Yes.
It's kind of blocked, Chris, or at least on my screen, it's blocked by the people. Is it something
You can move that, Jerry.
Everyone have the same problem.
Yeah, I've got it.
Jerry, at the top, you see like a little bar, then a bigger bar, then a bigger.
Yeah, all right. I moved it. I'm good.
Okay, awesome. So I'm good to go?
Mm-hmm.
All right, so as I said, my name is Christopher Stecker. I grew up here in East Hampton Village on Cooper Lane. I graduated from East Hampton High School in 2018, and I'm currently working to graduate with my Bachelor of Community Design at Dalhousie School of Architecture and Planning. Here's a photo of me visiting Main Street back in December for site analysis. I'm just going to start off with a simple Google satellite view of Main Street. As we can see, it spans from the southwest to the northeast and takes up a large part of the business district of the village. Now, Main Street today is both a built-up suburban area and a main arterial road for the eastern hamlets in the town of East Hampton. Traffic moves well through the area, with congestion occurring during commute times and when school lets out, because there are 3 schools within 2 miles. It is very pedestrian friendly. Wide sidewalks with trees are provided on both sides of the street, and crosswalks have lights that pedestrians can even activate with the push of a button. There's also 1 automated crosswalk on the corner of Newtown Lane and Main Street. There are 2 lanes of traffic going each way and parallel street parking on both sides. Also worth noting is that there is a turn lane throughout various portions of the street. Here's a current cross-section of Main Street. This guy plugging. All cross-sections were made measuring distances using Google Maps. Due to that, measurements may not be exact. I won't spend too much time on this cross-section, given I described it in the last slide. It just shows the current layout of Main Street today. Now, the case for bicycle lanes. The town of East Hampton attracts many cyclists for its scenic roads and beaches, but there are not adequate bicycle lanes for cyclists to travel safely. Now, traveling in the right motorized vehicle lane is the safest legal option, given it is illegal to bicycle on the sidewalk and there's strict traffic enforcement prohibiting cyclists from doing so. An example of that is seen in this slide, where the cyclist is forced to cycle in the motor vehicle lane. Now, bicycle lanes also support the Newtown Party's village improvement priority to revitalize the downtown of the village of East Hampton, especially if bicycle parking is increased to allow cyclists to help contribute to foot traffic. Here we have a low-cost design for Main Street. This basic and more feasible design includes adding a bicycle lane in both directions on Main Street. 1 lane of street parking is eliminated, and the other parking lane is used to protect the southbound bicycle lane towards Main Beach. The southbound bicycle lane was chosen so that cyclists making a left turn onto Main Street from Newtown Lane can access the northbound bicycle lane with ease, meaning that there won't be a lane of parked cars prohibiting cyclists from merging into the northbound bicycle lane. Now, this design does not require any concrete to be added, given the bicycle lanes are at grade with the street. Given such, parking enforcement will be necessary to keep motor vehicles from parking in the bicycle lane. Also worth noting is that 4 lanes of traffic are maintained, which is an essential part of this project. Now, here's a high-cost design. I won't spend as much time on this one. It is essentially the same, except the bicycle lanes have been raised above grade to prohibit motor vehicles from entering the bicycle lane, and we've also painted them green to increase visibility. Also worth noting is that a wayfinding sign has been put on along the southbound bicycle lane so that visitors can gain directions to and from Main Beach and any other bicycle lanes within the area. Despite being costly, raised bicycle lanes have been proven to vastly increase safety for cyclists. We've had a number of bicycle crashes in the village, as I'm sure you are aware of. This report does not include Newtown Lane. However, it does recommend a bicycle lane being implemented on both sides of the street. Also recommended is the creation and implementation of 2 left turn boxes on the corner of Newtown Lane and Main Street, so that cyclists can safely move ahead of traffic at the traffic light. A photo of this is seen on the right, taken from the National Association of City Transportation Officials. This design is widely used. I've used it in Halifax myself, and once you learn how the design works, it's very safe. The left turn box should also coincide with educational materials on how to use the design. The report also recommends that law enforcement to hand out educational flyers instead of tickets to violators during the first month of the left turn box's implementation, since a lot of people will be confused at first. Lastly, this report does not recommend removing any motor vehicle lanes, because Main Street is a main arterial road and evacuation route for the eastern hamlets in the town of East Hampton. It was a very short presentation, but thank you very much, and I'm happy to answer any comments and questions.
Hey, Chris, I have a question for you.
Sure.
The police chief has just solicited the state to see about the feasibility of reducing Main Street to 1 lane in each direction. So
I could see that for the eastbound lane, but given that it is an evacuation route, in the case of a mass hurricane or an event where we'd all have to go to higher ground, I don't see the point in getting rid of 2 westbound lanes.
yeah, the only reason we were thinking of doing it is safety, and it's such a short distance that you have 2 lanes.
Yeah, definitely. And
Evacuation. But how would that play, if that happened, how would that play into your plan?
well, if we were able to get rid of a motor vehicle lane, you'd have much more space. So you might be able to introduce concrete buffers and create more of a complete street, as they call it, allowing multimodal transportation throughout.
Very impressive presentation, Chris. How wide are the bike lanes that you propose?
Well, the standard bicycle lane width for most cities is 1.5 meters, which is about 5 feet, but I proposed 5.5 feet just for added safety. Now, what I had to do that was reduce each motor vehicle lane from 10.5 feet to 10 feet.
Mhm.
So if we needed a 10.5 foot lane for buses such as the jitneys, we could always reduce the bicycle lanes to 5 feet as opposed to 5.5 feet, thus allowing an extra foot to be added and 6 inches to each motor vehicle lane going each way.
Okay, since Main Street is a state road, we'd obviously have to get state approval to do this, right?
Yes, sir.
I've often thought about Ocean Avenue and implementing a bike lane there as well. I mean, I think anything that we can do to improve the safety for bicyclists is something for us to consider. As Tiger mentioned, it is a state road, so that would require, us to work along with them. I don't know if the police chief or our superintendent of highways wants to weigh in on this as well.
That's a very nice presentation.
Our biggest bike traffic area in the village is further in Dunmere in the summer, and it is hazardous to say the least. I don't know if it's possible. I don't know if it's feasible. I don't know if we own the land, but I could definitely see the need for a bike lane on that road. But I think the highway superintendent would be able to speak to this more clearly. I don't know that we have the room there because the road is relatively narrow as it is, but we do have a lot of bike congestion in the summer, and too often the bicyclists block the lane entirely, and so you have traffic coming to a stop in one direction so that motorists can go around them. So that exists. It's here. It's not going away. Any other place where we have room to put a bike lane, I think it's a great idea, just as long as the bicycles are not within striking distance of a car door, because we've seen that often. And but anywhere we can put a bike lane safely, I'm wholeheartedly for.
Yeah, I agree. There certainly are a lot of narrow streets with many cyclists on them. I used to work for Amagansett Beach and Bicycle as their bicycle delivery man, and Further Lane was always crowded with cyclists, and we know a lot of people like to cycle there. It's gorgeous views of the Maidstone Club, but definitely we have to be selective when we choose to implement a bicycle lane. And Main Street really spoke to me since I remember growing up. I always cut through Herrick Park to get to Main Beach, as opposed to going around that corner just since it was so dangerous.
I love this presentation, Chris. Thank you for your efforts, and it's well put together. From experience, I ride my bike a lot, and I'm terrified to go down Main Street. I won't do it. And to the police chief and also Rose and Tiger, whoever brought this up, is that, Further Lane, Lily Pond Lane, all the way out to Montauk is very well-traveled bike area. And, that gets a lot of bike traffic, and I'd be in support of any kind of bike lane, but back there I see a large demand for it.
Our issue with Further Lane and a portion of Dunmere is that the property lines go right to the edge of the pavement. So we don't have room to do a widening unless we were to get a road widening easement from the homeowners. And that's difficult at best. Property owners don't want to give up square footage. It affects other issues with their property. Those are great choices for bike lanes. As far as Main Street, I think this is a great presentation, Chris. You know, we have 4 lanes plus the safety zone in the center. I'm with the police chief as to narrow this road up and slow it down. If we were to do that, we could also narrow up our crosswalks, make the crosswalks a shorter distance. It's the same as they've done in Bridgehampton in the village of West Hampton Beach. It would make it a much safer corridor for everybody. And I applaud Chris for doing such extensive research. So, you know, there's a lot of possibilities with this stretch of road. And I hope we can pull something off here.
Yeah, and going back to the homeowners that might not want to give up any property for bike lanes because of square footage and setbacks and things like that, perhaps we could deal with that issue legislatively, so that if a homeowner gave up 5 feet of their property at the edge of the road, we might be able to reduce the front yard setback by 5 feet and allow them the square footage for, you know, other calculations. I mean, there are a lot of ways we can think about this sort of stuff. But I think that having, you know, Lily Pond is one that has been mentioned to me many times as being a very popular bike route and also being in terrible condition. So anything we can do to work on this, I think every one of us is supportive of this.
Well, that's great to hear, and I certainly agree on Lily Pond Lane. It's definitely a wide street leading to a village beach, so it's a great opportunity to put in another bicycle lane there.
Now, to add to this is that, you know, they did have an issue in Amagansett this week that was very unfortunate, where it would be nice to try to direct people to use a certain side of the road or an area as well. So, you know, again, I'm in full support of something like this, especially on those streets south of the highway.
So, Chris, we are looking at, you know, we already have contacted the state. So if we get the approval to narrow this street, I'm sure at the same time, they've been very, very friendly, like on 114 and on 27 Woods Lane. They have a short bike lane in there. So I think that is something that the state is friendly towards. So I think if this was to come true, you know, we could probably incorporate something, your idea, into Main Street. So I know we're waiting for them to do their study. So once we have more information, we'll let you know.
Awesome. That's great to hear. Thank you very much.
I just want to say, I want to say that, Chris, thank you for this presentation. And I want to encourage, like, when you came to us with this presentation, we gave you the floor because we think that East Hampton has great people that can come forward, like you, a student trying to fix something that all your life has been there and nobody has touched the issue. So thank you for that. And we encourage everyone like you, students that want to come and present.
Yeah, thank you. It's an honor to be able to come and share my thoughts with you all.
Thanks, Chris.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right, so next up is Drew Bennett. He's going to talk about diagonal parking on Newtown and also the traffic flow in the Route 10 parking lot.
I'm going to head out. I have a GIS lab for school, so you guys all have a good day. Thank you for having me.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. How are you?
Good. How you doing?
Everyone can hear me? So I'm Drew Bennett. I'm a consulting engineer, and I'm here on behalf of the Village of East Hampton. And I'm here to update the board on a study plan that we prepared that introduces diagonal parking in the core commercial area. Specifically, we looked at the Route parking lot and Newtown Lane east of the railroad tracks. The primary goal was to try to increase the number of parking spaces. As we know, the core district has a deficit of parking. And also look at improving traffic circulation and pedestrian safety and try to make it more green if possible. So I'm going to try to share the screen, and we'll start with Park Place, if that's okay, or the Rudesham parking lot. So let's see how this works. Okay. Can you see that?
Yes.
Okay. So this is a sketch of the existing Rudesham parking lot configuration. To the top of the page is, let's see, well, let me start. Left-hand side of the page is the Herrick Park. Right-hand side of the page is Main Street. The bottom of the page is the LVIS. On the upper left-hand side, it would be Stop and Shop. So we estimate that there's an existing 318 spaces. And we looked at a number of different configurations. And in a nutshell, we've come up with some suggestions for your consideration. So again, this is the same map. This is in red, some of the proposed changes that we're suggesting or would like to discuss with you. In a nutshell, basically, we're converting the parallel parking along the perimeter on the right-hand side and at the top of the page to parallel parking. We are introducing more one-way traffic flow in the parking lot, and to accommodate that, we're narrowing some of the travel lanes, or to encourage that, I should say. And we're also proposing to remove a small tree island, essentially in front of John Papa's restaurant. So again, the changes are in red, and what this, if we accept all of these proposed changes, the net increase in spaces is 13 spaces. I want to point out that we're also proposing a sidewalk along the perimeter with Herrick Park. It's something that needs to be integrated with the Herrick Park improvements. I'm not that familiar with where the village stands with that, but as a way to improve pedestrian safety, try to reduce the number of people walking in the parking lot, we think adding a sidewalk along the perimeter of Herrick Park would be a good suggestion.
Is that where the privy is now? Where the
yeah.
is now?
So in this sketch on the left-hand side, you'll see a little building that says existing privy. Let me see if I can zoom in.
I'm sorry, Drew. It's a little hard to see.
That's all right. Let me zoom in.
From my laptop.
Is that better?
That is much better.
Okay, sorry.
No, that's great.
Okay, so you in this, now that I've zoomed in, you can see that this is the sidewalk that we're proposing. These red spaces are essentially where the tree aisle is right now. That would be removed. Remove the tree aisle. Some people feel that, or there's a feeling that it'll eliminate an existing bottleneck that exists here, where we have a small area of small parking spaces also next to John Papa's. And so this area here, this is John Papa's, this is the business service. These areas would be converted from parallel to diagonal parking, same in front of Park Place Liquors, et cetera, on here to the north. So this currently is two-way. These arrows show that the change in, or the slight modification, which way the traffic would flow. So there's some pros and cons to the directions and so on and so forth. We sort of settled on these. So any questions or anything I can answer on this?
Drew, I have a question. The islands along Park Place, are they bumping out larger to narrow the road? Is that how you do it?
No. So this lane here, where my hand is, can you see that? Yeah.
Yeah.
So that right now is would be reduced in width by restriping the road. By elongating these parking spaces, it would narrow the width from like 24 or 25 feet down to 22, which is more in line with the one-way traffic. So these tree islands here, there's no proposed changes. Again, the only proposed changes are those that are denoted in red. If I go back, let's see if I can go back. So here's this existing island that we're talking about.
Right.
There's 2 or 3 maple trees there. The grass is pretty worn out from a lot of foot traffic and people going over the curb. So that's the only thing that we would remove. So in our sketch, we've increased the number of spaces by 13. We think introducing the sidewalk improves pedestrian safety. We were not able to make it more green. I presume that the Herrick Park renovation would propose some nice plantings along this perimeter, which would make it more attractive. This sidewalk would remove the hedge that's there and the chain link fence that's embedded within it. Yeah. If you just do the diagonal parking and you don't take out the island, the diagonal parking adds 6 new spaces. Removing this tree island here adds 7 spaces. Combined, they add 13 spaces.
Okay.
All right.
That's terrific.
Any questions before we move on to Newtown Lane?
Yeah, Drew, it's Tiger.
Morning.
That seems, I'm sorry, my laptop just died, so I had to come back in on my phone.
Okay.
That seems like a lot of work for not a lot of spaces.
Well, you should break it up into pieces and think about each piece and the value of each piece. So the first piece I would think about is the diagonal parking along the perimeter. And that work would be essentially removing the existing striping and restriping. There wouldn't be any new concrete, there wouldn't be any new asphalt. And that's a gain of 6 spaces. Second part of this would be, directing or encouraging one-way traffic, at least in 2 of these travel lanes. And again, that difference would be removing the existing arrows and restriping it. And removing the tree island is construction. You're right, Tiger. You would have to remove the trees, remove the curb, remove the tree aisle, repave it, etc. So that's more work, and it adds an additional, I think it's 7 spaces. And then the third part of this, which doesn't add any spaces, is adding the sidewalk. So you could break it up into pieces and try to prioritize, or you could say, I don't like any of the pieces, but I think you have to think about it as elements, which elements provide the most value for the investment, and approach it that way.
Right.
So.
Okay.
The low-fruit or the diagonal parking spaces. Beyond that, you start spending, money, so to speak.
Right. And then there's also the behavioral part of it, where people are going to have to be trained.
In what way? In behavioral on how to use diagonal spaces?
No, behavioral and having people adhere to the one-way arrows.
Yeah. So that's you're right, Tiger. That's always been a problem, and it takes enforcement.
Right. Well,
it takes signage, it takes enforcement, and takes encouragement.
Yeah, we can do it. I mean, it's herding cats out here in the summertime, but
the plan is to increase the parking along Park Place first.
Right.
Because that area under our parking plan will be 30-minute parking free all the way down. So I think that's important to try to get done this year. And then the other part of it, like the sidewalk, I agree that would be a nice addition, but I think that is going to be part of the Herrick Park renovation. And then the other part with that little island, I wish there was something we could do to make that look better.
The only way, from my point of view, it's hard to make it greener and maintain or increase the parking spaces. You have a very unusual shaped piece of property. You're limited in the space. So if you want to add tree islands, which would be nice and make it more attractive, from my perspective, I wasn't able to do that without impacting the parking spaces.
Sure. Okay.
Mayor, just so you're aware, our certified arborist on staff has approved removing those trees. They do very poorly in that spot due to compaction and the choice of the species. So he has been consulted on that, And this was, removing that island was a topic of discussion between myself and the police chief back last year at some point to improve the flow around that lot. So just little extra information for you.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah. I think the low hanging fruit, you know, the diagonal spaces, I don't think that is, you know, represents much of a change really even. You know, we pick up spots.
Yeah, it's relatively easy to do, and you gain half a dozen spots.
Right.
All right, good. I like it.
All right, I'm going to go over to Newtown Lane, if that's okay.
Yep, I'm ready.
Okay, same situation here. So this is, and I know Rose can't see this, and neither can I. So just I have a couple follow-up slides that are easier to see, but
Sign of the times, Drew.
yep. Thank you. So on the left-hand side of the up here is the railroad track crossing. That's Mary's Marvelous. Down here is the stoplight at Main Street.
Hey, Drew.
Yes.
It didn't.
My screen still shows Rudersham.
Herrick Park, Rudersham.
Yeah.
Let's see here.
Now we get Drew.
Hold on. Sorry about that. Let's just see if. How's that?
Not yet.
Now we have your computer.
Hold, 1 second. 1 second, please.
Next time too, it might be helpful for any presentation for us to have a hard copy. Just, it's easier to follow along with since we're all using our laptops.
I don't think he's
Our
there.
packets, you know. No, I'm saying to Marcos going forward.
Well, I think it's
Just give me a second here. I'm going to mute for a second.
public too,
Sure.
so we have to be able to make it.
Oh yeah, no, we need to see it on the screen as well, for sure. But for us to follow along, it might be nice to have it in our packet.
There we go.
We're in business.
Okay, you can hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So I apologize for that. Okay, so we have several snapshots here, or sketches of Newtown Lane. On the left-hand side over here is Mary's Marvelous and the railroad tracks. Over here is the light at Main Street. And we considered the entire stretch east of the railroad tracks, which is where my cursor is here, at looking where we could introduce diagonal parking where it made sense, where it met some of the business owners' preferences, and where we could maintain pedestrian safety and line of sight at various crossings and road connections. So, as you know, there's a mix of uses. This end of the street is commercial. In the middle of the street, we have school bus operation, a school operation. We have a public bus stop that's here by Stop and Shop. And so, taking that all into consideration, we felt that the core commercial area, which is here, and I'll zoom in on this in a second, which is essentially east of Stop and Shop, was most suitable for potential diagonal parking. So I will go to the next page here. Okay, so this is a zoom in on the section of Newtown Lane, and I'll zoom in for myself and Rose here. Here's Mary's Marvelous, People's Bank, etc. And you'll see that we're not proposing any changes between the railroad tracks and Osborne Lane. Next sheet is between, this is the Isaac Osborne House, which is 88 Newtown Lane. This is Muchmore Lane. This is the middle school. This is Herrick Park. Again, because of bus traffic and pickup and drop off, this area we felt was not a good place to do diagonal parking, and we maintain the existing turn lanes. I also point out that there was some feedback from Whittendale's that felt it was better for their business operation to maintain the parallel parking because it's easier for people to, load that type of merchandise, nursery stock, into a car that's parallel parked versus one that's diagonally parked. And then down here, this is Stop and Shop. Down here is the public bus stop. Again, we felt the bus operation was best served by parallel parking. So then we begin to transition into the core commercial area. And this is, I think this is Babette's here, if I'm correct. And this is Stop and Shop. So let's go to the next slide here. Okay. Here's Park Place. This is the Skankford lot. And from basically Park Place East, we propose diagonal parking on both sides. To do this, we eliminate, currently there are some turn lanes in the center of the road, and we also eliminate the striped safety islands. We have maintained handicap parking in diagonal configuration, and we've also blocked out areas in these red hatches that will provide adequate line of sight. Currently, this is 2 lanes in this direction of Newtown Lane, and we reduce it to a lane that's about 18 feet wide, and which accommodates the diagonal parking, and then we leave room for about 6 cars here at the end where it intersects Main Street for cars to queue for a right-hand turn onto Main Street South. There was some discussion of maybe making this lane here an option of turning both south or right, or also perhaps making a second left-hand turn to clear more cars through the light when the light is green. So that the diagonal parking spaces in this limited core area increases the number of spaces by 13. In terms of the touch on Tiger's comment earlier, this work would basically require removal of existing striping and introduction of new striping. There's no new curbing, no new asphalt, no new concrete. So that's basically what we came up with. Different people have different perspectives, and we certainly would appreciate any input that you have.
True. It's Tiger again. My concern with this, I've had many people tell me, why can't we go back to diagonal parking? A lot of people don't like parallel parking and they like diagonal parking. So I have heard that request from people. But my real concern is that we have effectively, I call them southbound lanes, but I guess they're really westbound lanes. We have from Stop and Shop down 2 travel lanes that back up even now. If we reduce that to 1 travel lane southbound, with the potential of people seeing somebody getting ready to get into their car and leave, so they stop and wait for that person to back out so they can grab that space. I'm just concerned that we're going to back this up to the high school. There are no good alternative routes like there are in Sag Harbor and Southampton, to get around. I mean, there is no real parallel artery for to replace Newtown Lane for people that are going north and south, unless you go over to Cedar Street or push it into the residential neighborhoods on Dayton. I mean, I'm just concerned about the traffic volume through Newtown Lane backing up terribly because of the restriction in travel lanes.
I understand. I mean, that's certainly a valid point. I think it's actually eastbound. As you travel from the middle school toward Main Street is eastbound.
Okay.
The 2 lanes of traffic, I'll just give you my observations and my considerations. So the 2 lanes of traffic that currently exist there now, they do back up, but the lane that is closest to the parking spaces, at rush hour, it really just ends up being a space where people wait to get into the main travel lane so that they can take a left at the light. So that second lane currently is not heavily used. There's not a lot of traffic that takes a right-hand turn at the light at this point. So reducing the queuing space, for that right-hand turn, I don't think is a factor. And I think most people are taking a left-hand turn to go north. So from a rush hour point of view, I don't think that the diagonal parking will have a major impact. The thing that we have to, let me just finish my thought if that's okay. So the thing that we'll have to be careful of or consider is the people who are waiting for someone to back out and be able to park, particularly during a rush hour time period. So those are my thoughts on that.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. There's definitely pros and cons with this. But again, I like your idea, Drew, of making that turn lane at the intersection of Main and Newtown the right one, that you can go either way. I think that would be smart. And that would help alleviate some of the congestion that Tiger's talking about. But I mean, remember, we're going to pass a law later on, not today, but it's going to allow outdoor dining. So this is much more conducive to outdoor dining than parallel parking. As everybody knows, with the pandemic, we allowed outdoor dining, but we eliminated parking spaces to allow it to happen. So this way, we wouldn't have to eliminate the parking spaces with the diagonal parking. And personally, I think diagonal parking is so much easier for people than parallel parking. So I think this would be a much smoother way for people to park on Newtown. And I also think coming down Newtown Lane, I think it's really, you're coming into town to look for a parking spot. I don't think you're so much just driving through. And if you are, I think you'll find an alternative route rather than sitting on the street if it's that congested. So I think it's worth a shot. I think we should try it. It's just striping.
Yeah, and Jerry, the other thing I had about the outdoor dining, if we're going to have cars facing in to the outdoor dining, we're going to need to have barriers there, because we all know of the people that, you know, go through their garage door because they thought they were stepping on the brake but stepped on the gas. I would hate to see something like that happen in our outdoor dining areas.
Yeah, the surrounding villages that have the diagonal parking do not have barriers, but I agree with you. So I've talked to Dave about this, and Dave is looking to see if we can come up with something.
I just want to clarify one thing too about the outdoor dining and the parking spaces that we blocked off, which I think were 2 or 3. And I think we gained so much more on the other end by allowing for the outdoor dining. That certainly was worth giving up those spots. But the reason we had to do so is because the tables were in the brick area of the sidewalk, and because of COVID and the distancing that had to occur, if someone were to parallel park, they would be within 6 feet of a table and so forth. So that's the reason, aside from safety as well, that we didn't want people pulling in, that we did that.
You know, the one thing I'd like to say too is that, and I see both sides of it, but a lot of people won't park because they're scared to parallel park or their car's too big around this area. So I think that this maybe gives people a little more of an opportunity to park. And a lot of times if it's busy and there's people behind you, you don't want to throw your car in park and try to back up right now to parallel park. So, you know, there's also flawed parallel parking examples where people, they think they're going to make it, and then all of a sudden they don't get in, and it's not easy. I mean, it's not easy to parallel park, especially when there's pressure on you to do so. So, you know, I think this is worth a try, and it does gain spaces. I mean, if we can gain a handful of spaces here and 13 in the back, and, you know, it all adds up to you know, being a considerable effort to try our best to give the residents and non-residents as many spots as we physically can.
Yeah, I am not in favor of this plan. I think the diagonal parking in the Rudershan lot is probably a really good idea. I think that the diagonal parking here, I am not a fan of backing up into a travel lane. You know, again, I always am the guy who's parked next to the big Suburban that you can't see past. You know, my car is not new enough to have the cross warning alerts in the back, so I don't know if someone's coming. And, you know, you back out into traffic and it just clogs everything up. I just don't see this particular stretch of road as being a good idea for diagonal parking. And also to address the down at the traffic light, the 2 lanes, if we're going to have both lanes, the left-hand lane be left only and the right-hand lane be left or right. If indeed we are going to be reducing Main Street to 1 lane in each direction, I think that takes that option off the table, because you would then be putting 2 lanes into a merge that may not clear.
Or you'd have to eliminate some parking in front of Citarella.
Yeah, and again, that's, you know, eliminating parking. I don't think anyone wants to eliminate any parking.
You don't have
Citarella would be happy.
You don't have 2 lanes in front of Citarella. You have a merge lane, and then you have a left turn lane onto North Main Street. Then you have 1 travel lane.
That's correct.
So you're not going to eliminate anything in front of Citarella.
Yeah.
You're eliminating the 2 lanes. It's going to be from Newtown Lane west or south. So to Chris's point, I agree with people not being able to parallel park, which forces more people into the parking lots to look for easy parking. So to me, this is easy parking. You just pull in and you back out. And
But
again,
it might be, Jerry, it might be easy parking, but
not finished yet, Rose. And you also have the, Tiger, you were saying about the backing into a travel lane. You have to back up in a travel lane to parallel park. So I think, you know, it's splitting hairs here with this, but.
Well, that way, at least you know that somebody's right on your bumper and you can't back up. This way, you're backing up into an unknown.
Got it. Go ahead, Rose, sorry.
no, that's okay. I was just going to say, you know, it might be easy parking, but I think the backing up is a little bit of a concern. And I also agree with Tiger about the possible congestion, you know, headed eastbound to the light. If we eliminate 1 turning lane, I think we've all sat in that traffic, waiting for the light to turn, you know, all the way, you know, in front of 66 and Stop and Shop. So I just don't want to exacerbate that congestion and that flow of traffic by another plan, even though we might get a couple more spaces. You know, what outweighs what really in this situation?
Sandra?
Yes, I just wanted to say that I agree with the diagonal. I do like when I park diagonally when I go to other villages and I'm able to do that. I hate parallel parking myself. I think, like it was said before, that other lane going to turn right, that is never used. It's always the congestion for the turn signal for turning left. So maybe we can do something with the traffic light itself, so it's a little bit longer for turning left, because that's the reason why we have traffic there. I don't think it would change much of the traffic. I think we're just having a problem with the turning signal. That's all I think. And I think we should try it. Diagonal parking, I'm in favor of that.
All right, great. So, and the other thing is with the crosswalk, it would make it much safer than having the 2 lanes, as we've all seen. You know, we have a lot of close calls, and we've had some accidents where somebody stops in 1 lane and then somebody doesn't stop in the 2nd lane. So
That's a big advantage. There's some potential if we did this and this worked, there's also potential for additional parking spaces in the future. You know, we could relocate a hydrant in front of Bank of America. That gives you an added space there. As you know, I'm an advocate of closing Barnes Lane and making it a pedestrian way, and bringing the Skank Lot entrance in line with Park Place through Percy's Place. So the Barnes Lane area that Drew has hashed out, I just kind of roughly scaled it off. We'd gain almost 6 parking spots right there on Newtown.
yeah, that's great.
So, you know, I I think it's worth a shot. I understand some of the traffic concerns, but I think that's also education. I think once people realize, it's not really a cut through, that this is the core business district and that's what you go through it to use it for. I see benefits here.
I see benefits in terms of more parking spaces for people to use for free to go visit our stores. I mean, that's a plus. There's no doubt about it. But I just think that the traffic congestion so outweighs. I mean, I go down Newtown Lane daily, all right, and not to stop. If I'm going, to Amagansett from where I live, I go down Cedar Street. If I'm going anywhere to the west, I go down Newtown Lane and turn right. And very often, the reason that right turn lane is empty is because somebody is coming out of the Stop and Shop or the Park Place and turning right, and then immediately trying to get into the left turn lane, which is full. And it's just congestion. And I think we're just going to, by having one travel lane, I think we're going to be just jamming ourselves up here. I mean, I'm really concerned about that.
All right. Anybody else before we move on?
I just had a quick comment. When we first did the outdoor dining, we had debated where we were going to put the tables and so forth and so on. And one of the things we talked about was location of vehicles, parking, and traffic. And we at that point had also talked about substantial barriers, meaning weighted barriers with concrete. We fixed the safety issue by blocking off a couple of parking spaces, and it worked very nicely this summer. But it's very possible, I think this plan can work, but I just think that we need to realize the spots that we have currently blocked off, if the tables for the restaurants in the future are going to remain in the same place, we may need to block off several of those spots in the future anyway, but with the use of barriers of some sort. Now, Dave and I know we're going to talk about barriers in the future, but if you notice in the other jurisdictions too, such as Sag Harbor's outdoor dining is all in close proximity to the front of the buildings. They don't have any that are near the road. We went the other way, and ours are a little bit closer to the road, but we mitigated that by putting in barriers and removing several spots. So just something to think about. I like the idea of being able to go both ways at the end of the street as well. I think that's going to help. And I like Superintendent Collins's idea about Barnes Lane, lining up Barnes Lane with Park Place, and also the Plaza idea. So just a couple things, and I know we can fine tune moving forward. And I know Dave and I plan on sitting down and talking about barriers that are, visually appealing, but also functional.
Terrific. So does anybody else have any comments before we move on?
Hi, Mr. Mayor. I would just like to make one observation based on my experience of traveling eastbound down Newtown. And that is what I find, feeding off of what Tiger said, is when people are making a right-hand turn out of Park Place, what I experienced is that they'll travel as far as they can down the right-hand lane and then stop traffic to try to get into the left-hand lane, and essentially makes the right-hand turn lane useless until they either are aggressive enough to scooch, cut somebody off and get into traffic, or somebody lets them in. And I think this actually forces people to behave a little bit better.
It's funny you say that, Bill, because when I'm coming down Newtown Lane and someone's coming out of Park Place, they don't even use the right lane. They block the right lane until somebody gives them a break to get in. So the entire right lane is empty all the way to the traffic light.
Yeah.
So that's frustrating. That's really frustrating. But no, that's great. I thank you, everybody, for your comments. It sounds like we have a majority to move on. So I would like to get some pricing going on this, Dave. I know we have either county or state contracts for the striping.
Yes, we've actually been using the town of East Hampton's contract. We have a very good contractor this year. They're from Connecticut. They also have a sub-business here on Long Island that they work from.
Okay.
We'll reach out to them, and I'll get the hard drawings from Drew.
Yeah,
And,
I'd like to get the pricing for Newtown, exactly how Drew has it,
Yep.
and Park Place.
Yeah, the main thing with Newtown is we're going to have quite a bit of stripe removal to do in the median, in the center portion, the safety zone. So that's the biggest part of it. The diagonal is not a big problem because the only thing we really have is the white fog line to deal with. So we'll get started on it.
Mayor, also one thing, can I just say, I think we should also just double check to see if, a lot of our codes for parking and the hour parking and everything is based on distances and areas. So we want to make sure that it lines up, and if it doesn't, we may have to change some code sections.
More work for Beth. All right, great. Thank you, Drew.
Thank you. Take care.
Thanks.
All right, so now I think we have a public hearing. June?
Introductory number 5, 2020. The purpose, section 1, purpose to add a stop sign on Accabonac Road at the intersection with Collins Avenue.
Are there any, is that it, June?
That's it. That's a short one.
All right, is there any callers on? Anybody need to be heard?
Currently, there's no callers on the line.
All right, so we'll close that hearing, Beth?
I'll make a motion to close that hearing.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, passed and carried.
Thank you. Introductory number 7, 2020. Section 1, purpose. The Board of Trustees have determined that a need to address a number of parking concerns within the village. Some areas that restrict parking to a certain time period should be extended or shortened. Also, in order to address certain safety concerns brought forth by the village police chief, the Board of Trustees feel it is necessary to create some new no parking zones, along with addressing the no left turn provisions when emerging from Pleasant Lane onto Newtown Lane. 267-4, parking prohibited in designated locations. Under A, the parking of vehicles in any of the following locations is hereby prohibited. Number 78 would be added on both sides of Middle Lane from the intersection of Cross Highway to the intersection of Egypt Lane. Number 79 on both sides of Egypt Lane from the intersection of Fithian Lane northerly to the intersection of Panago Road, New York State Route 27. And number 80 on the easterly side of Church Street from the intersection of Buell Lane, 495 feet north to the border of John M. Marshall Elementary School property. Under section 267-7, parking time limited in designated locations. Number 2 would be amended to read on the north side of Newtown Lane from its intersection with the westerly side of Main Street, running a northwesterly direction to the intersection with easterly side of Osborne Lane, and on the south side of Newtown Lane from its intersection with the westerly side of Main Street, running in a northwesterly direction to its intersection with the southerly side of Railroad Avenue, 155 feet to the end of the existing gutter curbing daily between the hours of 8 a.m. and 7 p.m. for a period of time in excess of 1 hour. Number 7 would be amended to read, on the westerly side of James Lane, beginning at a point 775 feet from the intersection of Mill Road, running southerly for a distance of 210 feet for a period in excess of 30 minutes instead of 2 hours, between the hours of 9 a.m. and 6 p.m. from May 15th to and including September 30th. Number 35 would be amended to read, would be added, I'm sorry. on the north side of Newtown Lane from the intersection with westerly side of Osborne Lane, running in a northwesterly direction to land of the Long Island Railroad Company, between the hours of 8 a.m. and 7 p.m. for a period in time in excess of 2 hours. Under subsection 267-11, U-turns and left turns prohibited in designated locations. Number 6 would be amended to read, all vehicles, trucks, cars emerging from Pleasant Lane onto Newtown Lane shall turn only right between the hours of 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. Monday through Friday.
Is that it, June?
Yep.
All right. Any callers, Jody?
There's currently no callers on the line.
All right. So can I get a motion to close the hearings?
So moved.
Second.
Motion.
All right. Hearings closed.
Introductory number 8, 2020. Let's see. Vehicle and subsection 267-57, vehicle and traffic, beach parking, to include lifeguards that are East Hampton Village Ocean Rescue members, with the volunteers entitled to 1 resident beach parking permit at no cost.
Any callers?
There's no callers. I've tested the line, so they're good, but there are no callers.
All right. Can I get a motion to close the hearing?
So move.
Second.
All right. The hearing is closed. That's it, right, June?
That's it on the hearings, yes.
All right. Nobody on the line, right, for public comment. Jody, we already went through that.
Nobody's on the
All right.
Jerry, I'd like just to make a comment. Last week, we discussed the paid parking program, the newest version of the paid parking program in the village. And it's kind of been weighing on my mind since. And I just wanted to clarify my position regarding it. As I said in the meeting, I am happy that we revised it to not include street parking, and the time, is not till midnight to be enforced. However, I am still not in favor of charging non-residents to enter the Skank lot and the Rudishan lot. I just think that, for town residents to come into the village and to park in Rudishan, to go to Stop and Shop, possibly grab a slice at Fierro's or run into Gubbins or the liquor store. And if they have to pay as soon as they come into the lot, as is proposed, it might discourage them from coming into the village. And it could also have an adverse impact on our businesses within the village that I know we're all trying to help. So, I really think that we should consider, all along, I agree with paid parking. I've always thought that we should keep it the 2 hours free, as it's always been. If you want to stay in the lot beyond the 2 hours, then you have to pay. If you want to stay beyond, then you have to pay. And that third hour you could be charged for. But I just think that this has some significant unintended consequences to it in terms of non-residents. As soon as they come into our lots, the Skank lot and Rudishan lot, that is, that they would have to pay, $4 or whatever the charge is, $2 per hour. I just think that could have some negative, implications to it. And people might not come into the village. They might not run into the grocery store, as they'll go somewhere else. And I think we should reconsider that.
Well, thanks, Rose. Just so you are aware that the diagonal parking that we're putting all along Park Place is going to be 30-minute parking, and it's going to be free. So that should alleviate your concern with non-residents not being able to come into the parking lot to run into Gubbins or run into Starbucks or the liquor store or anything like that. And we're also doing the same thing over in the Skank parking lot behind Village Hardware, from Sam's all the way across the back there, and further down by the bank, from the bank parking lot all the way out to North Main Street would be 30-minute parking. Maybe what we could do to alleviate any concerns, maybe we make that an hour for free. And that should really alleviate anybody's concerns. If we made everything along Park Place an hour, maybe that would help out. But the goal of this paid parking, and no one should, think anything else. This is about making revenue. This is about installing the septic system that will help everyone who uses our downtown business area, including all the businesses. We just did a really nice presentation on 27 East yesterday. If you didn't see it, Rose, maybe you could watch that. And it was, I was on there with Sag Harbor, and it was 27 East did it. It was Sessions. I don't know if they do that every once in a while. And there were business owners from the village that were on that are totally in favor of this. So that might also help alleviate some of your concerns. But maybe we make it an hour.
I think 30 minutes is very difficult when we are enforcing this, which is May through Labor Day, to do, to run into the grocery store and run a couple of errands is going to be, mission impossible, just because it takes longer than 30 minutes. So an hour could be another compromise. But all along, I've always thought, if we just did, keep it simple, 2 hours is free. And then after that, you charge for the extra hour or the extra 2 hours if you want to charge for 3 or for 4. And I also, think that, if you don't have to do anything for 2 hours, that's great. Otherwise, we're assuming people have a smartphone, to log into this app and a credit card because we need to pay. We're not taking any cash, obviously. So those are my concerns. I think we really need to think long and hard about the possible unintended consequences to this as it stands now.
Yeah, originally we did talk about the 2 hours for free and then paying for the third, but based on the parking consultants, they didn't think that the revenue would be there for us. So again, this whole concept is to get this sewer system going. It's been dragging on for many, many years, and no one seems to want to pull the trigger on it. And I want to get this done, and we need the funding. So
I agree with you, and I understand that it's a very worthwhile cause, that the revenue we're going to allocate it towards, and there's certainly other grants through CPF and so forth that hopefully we'll be able to take advantage of. But these are my concerns at the moment.
No, I get it, and like I said, maybe the hour along the parking lot, along the perimeter, resolves some of those issues. I wouldn't be opposed to going an hour instead of 30 minutes.
Yeah, the only problem with the going to an hour is that the spots then aren't going to turn over. I mean, I realize, you can run one errand when you have a half hour, right? That's really all you can do. You can go to the grocery store, or you can go to the liquor store, or you can go to the hardware store. You can't do all three. You probably could do 2 of them in an hour. But I think that one of the reasons that we have this parking is that we want people to come into the village and shop at our businesses. And I think that your idea, Jerry, about funding the sewer system with parking revenue is, innovative. But, most systems like this are funded through taxing districts. And I think that is the way we really should try and go. I know you are afraid that we wouldn't be able to get voter approval for a taxing district to support the sewer. But I think that we ought to try and do that first.
No, do not. I'm talking.
We've been trying to get, this done for a while. And then we ran into the election, and then nothing happened. And now we have a new mayor and new administration, and we're going forward with this. But I think that we also ought to look at the taxing district, which would be a way to fully fund the sewer in the fastest way possible. I don't know what the projected revenues are for, the parking, but if we need to raise, $15 million for the sewers, it's going to be quite some time before we build that money up.
Well, that would not be my goal. My goal would be to take the revenue from the parking and pay off the debt service and take a bond to pay for the sewer system. We are not going to be, in my opinion, we are not going to be successful trying to tax the entire village for this sewer system. Southampton tried it and it was shot down. I'm not wasting any more time delaying the start of this project. So we're going to go with the paid parking, and it's just a matter of working out the details.
I just want to, it's okay. I just want to, just us to think long and hard about charging non-residents, which includes our town residents. And I think we have to think about our year-round community. I understand that we want to, build revenue for the wastewater facility, which we all agree on. And I think, our first step in that is defining, our map, what we're including. We haven't done that yet. We're years off from actually putting a shovel in the ground,
Well, and we're going to be more years off if we don't get started. But we did, Rose, just so you know, we did think about our year-round residents. We were going to make them exempt as well, but we were told we couldn't. So,
well, you could keep it the way it is, which would give non-residents, the town residents, free parking for 2 hours and then discharge for the third.
We would give everyone free parking for 2 hours, Rose.
Yes.
So therefore, like I just told you, the consultants have told us we are not going to see the revenue that we are expecting or that we need to get this project done. So, I'm trying to accommodate your concerns the best I can, but, we need to move the project forward.
Jerry, Mr. Mayor, can you share with us that consultant's report and the revenue projections that they came up with? I have not seen that.
No, there was no report in the sense that it was just the consultants telling us that we weren't going to make a dime. I think the unintended consequences of our last proposal and the reason why we pivoted is because the consultants just looked at us and said, we can tell you right now, you're not going to make any revenue, number one, and the only revenue you're going to make is enforcement, which I think we all don't want. So those really were the unintended consequences that we kind of looked at and decided to pivot to a more traditional model of street parking for free, like we currently offer, and then off-street parking being the convenience factor of our parking lots, meaning if you just want a spot and you want it now, there it is. So the 30-minute parking along the side, I think, would alleviate a lot of it. But I think the minute we start going into 1 hour, 2 hours here, there, free, I think it confuses people, and that's where people are going to start getting tickets.
Can I just interrupt? This isn't an agenda item, so it's kind of gone on a little. If you want to have a full-on discussion, it should be put on the work session or something for as an agenda.
It'll be on the next work session. Yeah.
All right, we can discuss it then.
How about we all think about whatever is on our minds, and at the next work session, we can talk about it at that time.
Great.
I just want to say something. I disagree with the taxing, so that would be my position at this time. But yes, let's talk about it.
Yeah, I agree with Sandra on that one as well. Is like I would not be in favor of taxing people. And again, if you're going to tax everybody, then you would say, well, instead of taxing them, just pay a couple bucks to park in this particular lot. I think people would rather that. But again, I agree with Rose in a way where we should all just make sure we make the best decision possible on the timing of, who gets what hour free, 30 minutes there. And maybe we can really try to hammer this out by the next meeting, because I'm in full support of getting this sewer system going to take a long time, and there's no time to waste. And again, so I would like to really decide as best we can on the hours and the parking structure, and if we can get that on our next session, that would be great.
All right, great. So, and just to be clear, this is only from May 15th to September 15th. There's no charge after that. Then it just goes back. It's going to go 2 hours, after the 15th of September and before the 15th of May, it'll be 3 hours enforced by the police. All right, enough said. Any other public comments? Jody, anybody on the line?
Nobody's on the line right now.
All right, great. Okay, so now we go into resolutions. June, are you ready?
Yep.
All right.
Number 1, make a motion to approve claim vouchers for the month of January.
So moved.
Second.
It's going to be a long meeting if I can't get a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Passed and carried.
Number 2, make a motion to approve warrants as listed. General Fund number 30, number 32, and number 33. Trust Fund number 29, and LoSAP number 31.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Passed and carried.
Number 3, approve budget transfer schedule number 2, reference number 6, dated January 7th, 2021.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Passed and carried.
Number 4, approve minutes from meetings held on September 3rd and 18th of 2020.
So moved.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Passed
Number
and
5, sorry.
Sorry, June.
5, make a motion to approve departmental reports.
Moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Carried.
Thank you. Number 6, adopt introductory number 5-2020 as local law number 1-2021, hereby amending code chapter 267 vehicle and traffic to add a stop sign on Accabonac Road at the intersection with Collins Avenue.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Carried.
Number 7, adopt introductory number 7-2020 as local law number 2-2021, hereby amending chapter 267 vehicles and traffic, subsection 267-4 parking prohibited in designated locations, subsection 267-7 parking time limited in, what did I do? Designated locations, and subsection 267-11 U-turns and left turns prohibited in designated locations to address a number of parking and safety concerns within the village.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Passed and carried.
Adopt as local law number 8-2020 as local law number 3. I'm sorry, that should be adopt introductory number 8-2020 as local law number 3-2021, hereby amending chapter 267-5C vehicle and traffic beach parking to include lifeguards that are East Hampton Village Ocean Rescue members with volunteers entitled to 1 resident beach parking permit at no cost.
Make a
So
motion.
moved.
to accept.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Passed and carried.
Number 9, accept the $354,000 bid received from Susan and Amanda Seacamp for the 5-year lease concession at Main Beach known as Chowder Bowl for the term of 5 years ending December 31st, 2025.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Passed and carried.
Number 10, adopt resolution number 5-2021, hereby creating the East Hampton Village Foundation.
So moved.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Passed and carried.
Number 11, adopt resolution number 7-2021, hereby creating a central garage department.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Passed and carried.
Number 12, adopt resolution number 8-2021, hereby appointing Thomas Priato as a full-time building inspector at the annual salary of $120,000 effective January 16th, 2021.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Passed and carried. And I see Tom's on. Tom, welcome, and we're looking forward to having you. You're muted, Tom. There you go.
Thank you, Mayor. and trustees. I appreciate the opportunity to serve in the village, residents, business people. Looking forward to coming on board, bringing a fresh take to things, and with my approach of being user friendly, and I think the department is there to serve, and looking forward to bringing my expertise and my years of experience to this, my third municipality. I'm not trying to hit them all, but I'm looking forward to it.
We're happy to have you, Tom. Thanks again.
Thank you.
Welcome aboard.
Mr. Mayor, your audio was off earlier at the beginning for your announcement that the building department is moving. That's the most important one.
Oh, yeah. So
88.
My audio was off, or?
No, LTV. The whole thing was off.
Oh, wow. So starting the end of next week, our building department will be moving from 86 Main Street to 88 Newtown. So we've got that building set up very nice, and it'll be one-stop shopping for all of our contractors and architects. So we're looking forward to that.
Yeah, it's ironic, or whatever the word is, that I'll be able to come on board right then, and we'll be in a new building and push forward.
Yeah, and Tom's going to be heading up our building department. So again, we're looking forward to his start.
Thank you, as am I.
All right, June.
Oh, thank you. Number 13, adopt resolution number 9-2021 to accept Christian Londano's resignation from the position of a full-time public safety dispatcher effective January 15th, 2021.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Passed and carried.
Number 14, adopt resolution. Oh.
Go ahead, Jim.
Number 14, adopt resolution number 10-2021 to employ Christian Londano as a full-time traffic control specialist effective January 15th, 2021 at a base salary of $43,705.
Moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Passed and carried. Hey, Chief, you want to just fill the board in on what just took place there?
Yes, Christian had moved into our dispatch unit for a probationary training period. And in doing so, he had a civil service bounce back to his previous position in the traffic division. And after a little while, he determined he thought it would be best for him to return back to his original position. Of course, it was there for him, and he's an outstanding employee, and I think he's going to do very well again for us. And we're glad to have him back, and or I should say, we're glad to have him back out in the public. He gets a lot of praise and comment, and I get a lot of comment on the work he does out there, as I have this year with all our TCOs and traffic specialists from the public. So definitely an asset to us, and glad to have him back to his other position.
Yeah, he's been with us a long time. He started when he was just a kid with us, and we thought this was a good opportunity for him to seek a more lucrative career as a dispatcher. But it just goes to show you how difficult that job is, and not for everyone. And we were hoping it would have worked out because we really like him, but we're glad that he's still with us. So thanks. All right.
Number 15, approve the $96,776 extension of the service and maintenance contract for the in-road warning light system at Village Crosswalks with Hink Electrical Contractor, Inc., as per David Collins' December 30th memo and the August 18th, 2020 bid specifications.
I just want to explain this real quick because I was driving Dave crazy with this one because of the amount of money, and I didn't quite understand what we were doing, but it's really not a purchase. It's really a contract in place should we need any of these things replaced. So is that correct, Dave? Did I say that right?
That's correct. There's provisions there for replacement light poles and traffic signals and that type of thing. It doesn't necessarily mean we'll spend that money, but in the event of an accident or one of these items becoming damaged, we immediately have access to it from the contractor and don't have to go through the procurement process.
Yeah, and just so everyone knows, the first 6 months was basically the same contract and we didn't spend anything. So just so everybody's clear. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Passed and carried.
Number 16, accept the $13,475 quote from Parkline Asphalt Maintenance to crack fill and seal coat the YMCA parking lot on Gingerbread Lane as per David Collins' December 25th memo.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Passed and carried.
Number 17, accept the $28,020 quote from Encon Northeast to strip and epoxy the flooring at the Department of Public Works facility. And that would be off Nassau County contract number BCPN 19000047 per Dave Collins, December 28th memo.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Passed and carried.
Number 18, accept Amanda Stannis as a new probationary member of the Ambulance Association as per Chief Chard's January 1st memo.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Passed and carried. Welcome aboard, Amanda. Thanks for joining us.
Number 19, adopt resolution number 11-2021 to accept and acknowledge the gift of a Domini clock donated by Joyce Welby Pulspos of Santa Barbara, California, as per Robert Hefner's December 29th memo.
I see Robert is here. Do you want to, Bob, do you want to talk to us about this? You're on mute, Bob. There you go.
Very good, thank you. Yes, the village board is accepting this morning 3 important donations for the Domini Shops project. I want to just take a moment to describe them and to show photographs of this furniture for the benefit of the public. I think this will work. Do you see the pictures of the clock?
Yep.
Okay, very good. So this is the clock made in 1778 by Nathaniel Domini IV. And it's important as being one of his earliest clocks. And the clock is being donated by the estate of Robert Welby, who is the descendant of the Barnes family, who owned this clock when it was in East Hampton. And the Welby family is now in Santa Barbara, California, and have the clock there. And the cost of packing and shipping the clock to East Hampton, approximately $2,400, is being covered by a generous donation from Leonard Ackerman. And let me just go ahead, if I may, and show the other donated group of furniture. These are 3 beds made by Nathaniel Domini around 1800 that are being donated for the Domini Shops by Hilary Osborne Malecki and others of the Osborne family of Wainscott. These are the components of the beds here. In the center, you can see one of the turned tall posts that would have been turned in the lathe in the Domini woodworking shop. And these beds are also important because they all 3 retain the original painted or shellacked finishes. The donation of these beds and the clock brings to 10 the number of items of Domini furniture donated to the Domini Shops, to the village in the last 3 years, which will be a great contribution to the Domini Shops Museum when it is completed, and it will be one of the great museums of early American craftsmanship in the country. Thank you. Does anyone have any questions about these donations?
Thanks, Bob.
Welcome.
And thanks for soliciting that donation for the shipping. That was Well done.
Motion on the first resolution?
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. I need a motion.
Yeah.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Passed and carried.
Okay. Number 20, adopt resolution 12-2021 to accept and acknowledge the $2,440.44 gift from Leonard Ackerman to cover the cost of the shipping of a Dominic clock donated by Joyce Welby Hulsbos of Santa Barbara, California.
So move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Passed and carried. And a big thank you to Lenny for providing that for us.
Number 21, adopt resolution number 13-2021 to accept and acknowledge the gift of 3 Domini beds from the Osborne family as per Robert Hefner's December 29th memo.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Passed and carried. Again, thanks to the Osborne family for their donation.
Number 22, notice to bidders for the Osborne Jackson House Repair Project, Phase 1, with the bid opening to be held on February 11th, 2021 at 2 p.m. at Village Hall.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Passed and carried.
Adopt resolution number 14-2021, hereby creating the Short-Term Rental Committee. Dan Uvari as chair, Judy Desiderio, Eric Kaufman, Carol Hayes, Terry Rao, Jackie Lowy, Ken Cullum, Beth Baldwin, and Marco Spaladron as members.
So move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Passed and carried.
Number 24, approve status changes for department company members Anthony Daunt, company number 2, and Nicholas Arkinson, company number 5, have been dropped from the rolls and effective retroactively to November 16th, 2020. Garrett Rack of company number 5 has resigned.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Passed and carried.
Number 25, approve the $5,100 repair to the fire department's aerial truck as per Firematics January 12th, 2021 price quote.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Passed and carried.
Number 26, adopt resolution number 15-2021 to establish the fees to be charged for the use of the lockers for the 2021 season, retroactively to December 1st, 2020, based on the respective size of the lockers, large $500, small $250.
Before we make a motion on this, I would just like to say that I would have liked to have had the opportunity to discuss these fee increases in a work session. The deputy mayor and I had an informal conversation where we raised a couple of different solutions to this problem, all working around the same thing. And I would have liked to have had a conversation about that in a work session before we did it. But since the letters have gone out, I'm not going to object to this.
I also agree with Tiger. I would have liked for us to have discussed this first. I do think that the Lot 1 permit with the large locker of 500 is an increase of $100, which is 25%. And I would have liked to discuss it before it becomes a resolution. Many of us who have Lot 1 stickers, village residents, weren't able to use their lockers last year as well because of COVID and the concerns about that. So I think the timing is not great on this either, since we weren't able to utilize our lockers. But it's already in motion, so it is what it is. But going forward, I think that these kinds of things should be discussed. It's a change to the code publicly beforehand.
Well, as you are both aware, this was an oversight and it was discussed. And
not by us.
It was discussed and you should have been brought into the loop. And that's the part that was the oversight. So, it is what it is. So
I understand, Mayor, but when something becomes apparent that there was an oversight, you could have put this on as, an agenda item to discuss. But we never discussed this, to be clear. The first time I heard of it was once the letter was out.
Right. And again, it was an oversight and the letter went out. So we have the majority who already agreed on this.
I didn't say I was going to vote against it. I'm just saying going forward.
Yeah, I'm not going to vote against it either. As a matter of fact, I'll make the motion.
I know this is what we hear every single time. You guys want to vote? Yes, but you want to be heard first. I get it.
Some things deserve public comment, correct? Any increase in fee, whether it's the building department.
But you're voting, what you're going to vote for. So.
Well, there's no point in
You've already
voting
collected
against
money from the residents.
Yeah.
Vote no.
Too late.
You could vote no.
What's the point?
What's the point of the comments then?
The point of the comments, Jerry, is that we need to discuss these things in public.
Tiger, once again, and it's been made very clear, this was discussed. This was discussed by the staff, and you both were left out, and you were told it was an oversight, and now you're just making theater. So I'm going to move on. I'm going to call for a motion.
I already made the motion, Mr. Mayor.
Can I get a second? Rose, would you like to second it?
Sure, Jerry. I'll second it.
Great. All in favor?
Aye.
Passed and carried. You? All right, that's the end. Marcos, just before I close the meeting.
Yeah.
So everything I said in the beginning as an update was not heard. Is that correct? Or?
Oh, I believe Jody just from LTV wrote to the chat and said that it would be. The most important thing are the beach stickers that go on sale midnight on February 1st. So that's, January 31st at 11:55, fire up your laptop and essentially, just to be clear. And then after that, it was the building department. I just want to make sure we're moving everything on Tuesday. So they should be ready to go by Wednesday at 88 Newtown Lane.
Okay, good. All right.
And wait, one thing is that people can get their beach stickers online as well, just to make everyone very clear about that, depending on if the village hall is open or not, that's all possible to be done online.
Right. So village hall is closed and we prefer that, we're non-resident to be done online. Yeah.
Right. All right, great. Chief Tracy, can you just give us an update on the on COVID?
Yes, we got an update from the county 2 days ago. We'll be getting another one later this afternoon. According to the county executive's office, we're on a slightly trend downward on the numbers. For example, a week ago, we had 9.5% positive rate out of 7 days, and now as of the 14th, 9.3% positive rate. So that it's slow, but it's good. And then this morning we spoke with Southampton Hospital in terms of their relative stats. There currently are 37 cases of COVID in the hospital. 10 of those are in the intensive care unit, and 7 of those are on ventilators as of this morning.
Any update on the vaccine?
Actually, no. If you looked at Newsday today, there was a little more finger pointing going on in between the counties and the state, but they have not yet expanded 1B to anyone else. But the folks in 1B, which include police, fire, and others, still are not really getting vaccinated. The vaccinations simply are not at the locations that were stated as going to be vaccination locations. So I think the rollout got ahead of itself in terms of press releases and theoretical vaccinations, far ahead of the actual vaccinations arriving, or the vaccines arriving, excuse me. So it is progressing. It's progressing very slowly. We're getting there again, but I think the information was a little bit sketchy when it was first delivered out of Albany in terms of being realistic and getting the vaccines to people.
Great.
So each day in the paper, we read about new locations that are going to have the vaccinations. With all hope, they get the vaccines soon.
Great. Thanks a lot.
I can add one thing to that is that Fire Chief Tirza informed me, and also for me being in the fire department, I'm checking on the website. The state website crashed this morning. I don't even know if it's still back up. They did add Stony Brook to the list of vaccination sites to attend. However, I tried to log on all morning and it froze, and then it crashed. And then I checked a couple hours later and it still crashed. The good news, if there's any, is that they've changed the website. And I think they know that it's not working so well. So again, it seems that they're trying, not very successfully, but they're trying to open this up and get the vaccinations out. I'm more than happy to let everyone know if I have any luck, but you know, from what I hear from everybody, especially the news, is just to keep on checking the website, and hopefully they can, you know, smooth out the kinks.
Yeah, and as we've heard from local physicians and pharmacies and so forth, you know, there are a lot of people and a lot of places that have been named as potential vaccination sites, which I think is great. But, you know, again, there's no certainty on any given day whether any mentioned hospital actually has the vaccines themselves. So still a little bit of a disconnect between the state and those of us on Long Island. But again, they're trying, they're doing their best, I assume. So we'll get there. We'll get there.
All right, thanks. Jody, there's nobody on the line, right?
There's no callers on the line.
All right, great. So we're going to close our meeting. We're going to go into executive session to discuss personnel and litigation. If we have to come back, we'll notify the media and reopen the meeting. So can I get a motion to close the meeting?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.